42. Long COVID is a condition marked by lingering COVID symptoms and can affect people of all ages. The CDC calls long COVID a health problem that lasts 4 or more weeks after a COVID infection. Joining us on the KOGO News Live Line, Julia Moore-Vogel with Scripps Research. And Julia, what are some of the symptoms, first of all, of long COVID?
Sure. One of the most common is fatigue, where people are just absolutely exhausted. There's headaches. Some people have their heart rate and or blood pressure spike to really dangerous levels when they get up. Food intolerances, chest pain, difficulty breathing. There's so many different things. And there's actually been over 200 symptoms that have been cataloged.
Do we know why this happens?
That's the challenge. We really don't know. And so there's a lot of research going on in this area and a lot of really strong hypotheses about it. One of them is it might be that there are pieces of virus still in your body and your body still thinks it needs to fight the virus. And there's some evidence for that, certainly. There are a few others as well, but we really are trying to, the whole research community, understand this better so that then we can develop treatments, because right now there are no well-validated treatments at all.
So this, I'm assuming that if you've had your COVID shots, if you've been boosted, will this help prevent, I know that some people still get COVID, but could that help prevent the long COVID?
So there is a decreased risk of getting long COVID if you've been vaccinated and boosted. It's about a 10 to 15% decreased risk. So it's not huge, but definitely still worth it. And the CDC has actually shown that right now 1 in 13 U.S. adults have long COVID. And so that's 1 in 5 people that have had an infection. But what that really means is you probably know someone that has it, whether you know it or not. It's the kind of thing that's kind of difficult to admit to everyone, I'm too tired to get up and brush my teeth, or I'm having difficulty remembering things. So it's really common even amongst those that have taken all the precautions that we have available to us.
Some of these issues last 4 weeks. Some of these issues last longer. How long does long COVID generally last?
So we really don't know yet. I personally have it. I'm coming up on my 2-year anniversary here in a couple of weeks, and there are people that, had it in the very beginning in, March and even earlier of 2020 that are still going on. And we've seen evidence from SARS-CoV-1, which we may not remember, but there wasn't much circulation here in the U.S., but a decade later, people still have symptoms. And so it's possible that without new treatments developed, it could be a lifelong disability that people are facing.
Is this an inflammation response that's just going wild?
That is one of the other theories, that in part your body, if it's responding to the virus, that it's inappropriately inflamed and, you're just constantly in this state of, your body's constantly in this state of fighting. I'll tell you one of the other theories is that there could be these tiny blood clots that make it difficult for you to get oxygen around your body because you're just having this clotting all the time. It doesn't show up, quite as much as, large blood clots that we typically think of causing things like strokes and pulmonary embolisms, but there are increases in those outcomes, and some studies trying to filter out those tiny blood clots have shown some reductions in fatigue and things like that for at least a short period of time.
Let's talk about kids. Are they getting long COVID too, or is this primarily something that affects adults?
The kids are getting it too. The data is not quite as good because it's a little more difficult to research kids, but the early data is showing that they get it at about the same rate as adults. It's also really challenging, especially in young children, to have them be reporting their symptoms. To say I have fatigue or I have a headache can be something difficult for children to identify. So they're seeing it come out even in emotional connection and behavioral concerns as well.
How much more research do you have to do before you can figure out treatments? I mean, is this years?
So much. So it's really interesting. The National Institutes of Health has this $1 billion initiative called Recover that's going on. And so they just put a call out for treatment applications where people put in ideas for treatment studies. And so we submitted one at Scripps Research that's not a typical treatment. It's not a pharmacological, but it's actually the thing that's been the most helpful to me and many of the other patients in the community. And that is using a wrist-worn wearable. Specifically, Garmin's devices are the best for this specific purpose, to help you manage how you decide what energy to expend throughout the day. And we call it pacing, just like you pace yourself in a marathon. It gives you data about how much energy you have left for the day that helps you make decisions about when you really need to rest. Because the rest right now is the best treatment for this, which is it's really difficult to employ. I think many of us know how hard it is to rest when our bodies need it. And when you have long COVID, for a lot of people, your body just needs so much more rest than usual.
That's Julia Moore-Vogel with Scripps Research on long COVID.